All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy first day of spring. So I'm excited to kick off this month's virtual training. This is called Unexpected Extras. Why I put this random cool chick on the cover, I don't know. She looks unexpected. So I'm excited about this training because it has a lot of fun ideas. I think I've been a real estate agent for 20 years, and I know loving on my clients has done me good as far as just taking care of my people in my database, referrals, and continuous business. So I'm sure you would agree that loving on your database is probably the highest priority. So unexpected extras will have a lot of ideas, but a lot of it really will depend on your implementation, which we'll talk about. So I will record this, and also I'm going to give you a lot of ideas. So I'll send you an email with all the links, all the templates that I'm about to show you. So what I'd like for you to do is just grab your cup of coffee, grab tea, grab something to keep you going this morning, and then also make sure you're taking lots of notes because a lot of things I say often are not on the slides that I provide. Okay. If you've never met me, welcome. And if you have, welcome back. My name is Drew DeMaree. Like I said, I'm a realtor 20 years, actually this year, celebrating my 20th year, 2 decades. I feel like I'm 105. If you've been in real estate long enough, you know it's a blessing to have this be in this industry, but it is sometimes taxing on your heart and your head, right? So our mission here at the Freedom Companies is, I'm just going to real quickly, to foster an environment that allows business owners to thrive and implement growth, ultimately providing financial freedom for them, all they do. So our big mission is always is to give you ideas. So come back to all the trainings that we offer. Again, we offer in-person trainings and virtual trainings, but I can't stress enough about implementation, which leads me to my girl, Shirley. You may or may not know Shirley. I love this quote, and it's really impactful, especially talking about unexpected extras. It says, you don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas." Shirley was the first African American elected to Congress. She passed away in 2005. But I think what Shirley's saying here is resonates with me in the fact that like we don't lack ideas in real estate, we lack implementation. And so you're going to have a lot of ideas coming off of this, or at least that's my hope. But what I challenge you is really grab on to something and get it done. Implementation. Because all of us that go to trainings, we even go travel to conferences and have these great events. And then we have this smart shelf where if we just implemented one thing, maybe two things, it would make an impact in our business. So we can't complain about not having enough real estate business or enough income if we're not implementing ideas. So that's my preacher moment. And thanks, Shirley, for kind of kicking us off this morning. One last thing before we dive into the content. I don't know if you're a John Maxwell fan. I am. He's been around for decades. He recently did a book. I think this is now second year, but it's a fairly new book. And it's called The 16 Undeniable Laws of Communication. And I really feel that real estate is a communication business. It's not a housing business, right? If we can communicate our value to our clients, if we can communicate the challenges or obstacles throughout the transaction, we are all going to see the benefit of it as realtors. So just want you to think through, like he has one of the laws of the 16 is law of adding value. And that's what this session today is all about, is how we can add value to people, right? So people may forget what you say, but they'll never forget how they make you feel, right? I also think that real estate sometimes feels a little bit lonely, right? So even though we're independent contractors, we may have hundreds of transactions under our belt. We deal with the potential lead, right? And we nurture that lead, and then it turns into a client, and then we go through the transaction with them, and then our job quote is done, right? And so that relationship changes, right? And sometimes that feels different than taking them in their car or going to the home inspection with them. So one of the things that the book says, which I think is super important, is focus on sowing, not reaping, right? Givers gain. be aware of how you view things and how you do things. So perspective is everything, right? So maybe there's things that you already do to give value to your clients. Maybe it's time to squeeze more juice or get amp that up and do it at a higher level. And we always want to put a 10 on people's head, right? We always want to make them feel like they are the most important person. And I know I had at one point 27 listings. I had five different buyers I was showing around, and it's hard. It's freaking hard to make sure everyone feels like they're getting 100% of you and you're putting a 10 on their head. That's not even counting spouse, partners, kids, family in general. So I know that's a challenge in our industry, but I just implore you to keep working towards that, and then run a different race, right? So I have been to countless trainings about love on your database and make sure your database is the heart of your business. But how are you going to stand out? How are you going to do things differently? I universally, you probably have heard the terminology of pop buys, right? They were new 10, 15 years ago, but now everyone does pop buys, right? So I also receive newsletters in the mail from realtors. A lot of them look the same, right? So when you're trying to add value, make sure you're running a different race. Try to give your value a little bit of a different flavor, because standing out is really important in this industry. All right. Well, we're going to first start with an acronym. It's called GLUE. This is really the the whole cement or the glue that holds this whole transaction or this training together, giving little unexpected extras, right? So one of the things I want you to really think about is, how can you go above and beyond? And I know great customer service, doing the right thing, code of ethics, that is honestly is standard, right? That's not extra. You should be doing all the things that you're hired to do, your fiduciary responsibility. These are things that are kind of wow moments, or things that really you make people feel special, right? I can't reiterate that enough. All right. So one of the first things is, when do you beginning with unexpected extras? I first want to say, often I see unexpected extras after the transaction is over. So maybe you give a closing gift, maybe you do client events, maybe you do those pop buys that I mentioned, right? Unexpected extras begin at the beginning of the relationship. When you get the lead, go on the appointment, and so on and so forth. So we'll look through real quickly here the 6 phases of a real estate transaction. My recommendation to you is, don't wait till the end to give some unexpected extras, right? Because low key, they know you're gonna give them a closing gift. That's probably pretty common knowledge now. We see it all the time on social media. But unexpected extras could be something such so simple as you buying a cup of coffee for them, um, when you're doing your consultation, right? Or bringing something to the home inspection when you and them are going to have to sit there anyway and do the home inspection, right? So unexpected extras don't have to cost a lot of money. It's truly that thought that counts, right? So I just want to make sure in your mindset that it doesn't start at the end. It starts at the start. It starts at the beginning. Okay. So you probably know this, but I want to remind you that the top 6 stressors of life, real estate's one of them, right? So we got death, we got divorce, we got illness, we got planning a wedding, having a kid, but buying a home or selling a home is one of the 6 life stressors. And if you have not personally, as a realtor, have not moved yourself in the last few years, do it one more time, and you're going to feel the same pain and stress as you do when you're experiencing with your buyer or your seller. So sometimes, because especially I've been in the business 20 years, we feel like we're conditioned to it. We're immune to it, right? But these people that we're about to go through a transaction with you, are stressed out, right? And they may not verbally say that to you, they may not physically show you that, but they are, right? And so if we can do anything to put a little calm in their veins, if we can put a smile on their face, that is our job, in addition to the fiduciary that we have, right? So just want you to remember that even though they're not physically showing signs of stress, they are, right? If you think about a buyer, right, they go through the process, especially in the market that we've been in, multiple offers, additional down payments, the stress and the like I always say, it's like DNA, pulling the DNA, like the lender needs so much paperwork and documentation. It's stressful, right? And oh, by the way, you still have to have a job and you still have to do all the things in life, but you're looking at houses making offers. So these unexpected extras are really to help soften that and to make sure that they see that you see them, right? And I think sometimes we get caught in the rat race of real estate and we got to slow down to speed up, meaning we got to slow down and say, hey, what could I do to make this person feel a little better? Or maybe they are having a bad day, right? Because your clients do tell you some crazy stuff, right? I feel like a counselor, a therapist, or even a priest at moments when they're not divulging necessarily always the stress of the transaction, but they're just life, job, partners, kids, things like that. Okay. So there's two slides that look almost identical. This is the seller's side of the transaction. There's also the buyer's one, right? And so when I email this to you, I think this is a good way for you to lay out, kind of plan out maybe a time frame of what unexpected extras could be in your world, right? So there's 6 phases in real estate, typically for sellers. There's 6 for buyers. I'm not saying you need to do unexpected extras for every phase, but maybe there's something special you can do during one, maybe two, maybe three, right? Again, I know historically realtors, we do a decent job of close and post-close sale things, so number 6. But there's a lot of other opportunities that I think we can shine and we can provide value, right? So pre-listing, I'm a big fan of before you even go on the listing appointment, starting with something like dropping a package off, right? So marketing information, maybe it's in a cute bag or a cute box. Maybe if you've already discovered they have pets, you put some dog treats in there, or maybe you already know they have young kids, you put a coloring book in there. But a pre-listing is before you go on that listing appointment, right? So it's their first impression of you, right? So if they're already going to get unexpected extras from you, that's already going to make you the unicorn and stand out. So that would be a high coaching recommendation to possibly do that. Things like this, that. If you're especially on the listing side, sometimes that's overwhelming to a seller, right? You're recommending them decluttering. You're recommending them paint neutral paint colors when they loved the current color in their kitchen, right? So it's not always a fun time for them, right? I've had the unfortunate conversation of having to tell them they need to clean their house a little deeper, right? It's a little awkward, right? So it's one of those things that pre-listing preparation could be a thing. So listing, marketing, contract negotiations, we know during that whole stressful back and forth. So this is just a roadmap. The reason why I put a bridge on top of this slide is it is a bridge, right? You're at the beginning of this bridge and you're helping them walk through every phase of this to the other side of that bridge. And I think sometimes we only see the end, we don't see the beginning because we know that the transaction is going to reach a conclusion, right? But they're still nervous or have stress. Real quick, buyers, same thing, slightly different arrangement, but really a lot of the same cadence as you would see in the 6 phases of the seller, right? The pre-approval process, not always easy, sometimes stressful, right? Home search process, not everyone loves to look at houses, right? And even though some people do, you don't want to be showing 20 houses, right? And you can work through going through that, right? So these are just ideas of when we go into the idea phase of unexpected extras. These are where you maybe plant them, the seed, where you put and strategically go through that. What I recommend is once you make a decision on the listing, the seller, and the buyer phases, stick with those, right? So if you're in phase 2 of the seller phase and you want to give an unexpected extra on phase 2, stick with that, right? The key with consistency is doing it over and over again, right? So don't skip around in different phases. Like find your items, find your really cool, unique gifts or touches, and be consistent throughout the transaction. So I hope this allows you to get a framework of where all this stuff is going to go, because I think sometimes we come up with the ideas and then we're like, when should we do it? I don't want to be awkward. I don't want to be pushy, right? I want to just feel natural in the flow of the transaction. Well, this should allow you to hopefully place it in the right spot for you, right? So we're going to go through a lot of this today, so I won't read this, but this is kind of a checklist of things. So again, if I'm going through the sellers, maybe these are 10 ideas of how to place them in the 6 phases, right? So, digital presentation, our pre-listing questionnaire, I'll go through that in a minute, and so on and so forth. You can read them, right? But a lot of what I did on these slides is to give you a like a playbook, right? And so think of it in sports, basketball, football, right? So the coach has a physical book of the plays that the player is going to use against their opponent, right? And something that sometimes in real estate, I think we have these great ideas, but we don't either have them written down or we don't look back at them, right? So looking at these 10 things, I'm not saying you need to do all 10 of them, but maybe pick 2 or 3 of them. And that would be a great thing that works for you. Something simple, I was just kind of glancing at this drop off packing boxes and supplies. Absolutely, that was one of my unique value propositions. So I would go on the listing appointment. I would give them recommendations to declutter. You could see their eyes getting a little large, going, oh my God, I'm already overwhelmed, right? And then literally the day after we had that listing consultation, they said, yes, I'm hiring you, but let me do some work around the house and declutter. I just went to Home Depot or Lowe's, bought 5 or 6 boxes, cost me like $2 a piece, and I dropped off the packing boxes and some supplies. I knocked on the door if they were home. If not, I put it on their front porch and I just said, hey, I appreciate you hiring me as your realtor. I know it can be overwhelming, but I wanted to kind of kickstart your packing process. So here's a few boxes and some tape. Seems so kind of duh, but that $10 or $15 investment of dropping off the boxes, I cannot tell you enough how many calls, text messages I've got from that. They're like, oh my God, even though I already had boxes, this just makes me feel like I can really start to focus in on cleaning out the closets and decluttering, right? Open house, another one, flowers and a note. A lot of times we're already picking up balloons and doing different things. Why not just grab some grocery store flowers, 10, $15, and then leave it for your seller afterwards and say, hey, we had an amazing open house. Thanks for allowing me to host the open house. I know I had to kick you out and the pets and the kids. I'll give you feedback later, but I just want you to know that I know this is hard on you, but I think we're going to result with an offer and I want to just make your day, right? Grocery store flowers is an unexpected extra, right? So think of these little fragment things that can kind of walk you through the process. Same with buyers, a lot of similar overlap there, working your way through. Showing homes, I would always text and say, hey, I'm already going to Starbucks or the Dunkin' Run. What's your drink order? I want to bring it for you, right? So you're already meeting at house number 1 and you're going to do 5 houses today. Picking up 2 extra beverages isn't going to make or break you, right? Again, none of this is like rocket science, but the intentionality behind it has to be top of mind. And so I want you to really think unexpected extras are unexpected. That's in the line, right? But unfortunately, we get so busy because if we're a type A, I'm a type A personality. I go point A to point B. I kind of have blinders on, like I'm a horse, right? And sometimes, yes, I know I'm going to show homes, but I don't think, oh, well, what does my client need, or what would make them smile, or what would help them, right? So just working way through. Another one for buyers, I was did a move-in day order pizza. I think that one is huge, right? So if you're going to deliver, so you're going to have to ask the question of like, hey, we closed today on Friday. When do you guys plan on moving in the house? And they may say, hey, we're going to rip out carpets, redo the paint. So it'll probably be a week from now, right? Put that in your calendar and then text them and says, hey, have you settled in on a move-in day more specifically? If they say next Tuesday, put that in your calendar. And then just the morning of that says, hey, you're probably having a stressful day, just come moving and kind of getting everything in the truck and organized for your new home. I wanted to stop by and get you some food for the evening. What time could I bring some food over today with you moving? It doesn't need to be a surprise in the sense you show up with pizza, but the surprise is that you thought of them, they're stressed out about moving, things like that. So order them some pizza, whether you deliver it, whether it's delivered, make it happen, things like that. Okay, just a little tip of the iceberg of some things that you could already start to do. I found this data and I thought some of this was interesting. I don't know if it 100% connects to unexpected extras, but I felt like I needed to leave this slide in because It's tricky in real estate. We want to be available for our clients, yet we want to have that balance or counterbalance of our life, right? So I've had the situation where I'm at dinner with my spouse or partner, and then you get the text message from a lead or a buyer that you're in a transaction with or a seller, right? But this is just the reality is 90% of customers rate an immediate response as essential, right? And 60% of consumers define immediate as 10 minutes or less. Woof, that's rough, right? So what I would say to this is they do need a response, right? So if they're texting you or calling you, the thing is, I think text is more prevalent than now than ever. It's okay to say, I received your text message. I'm out to dinner with my family. Can I call you in 30 minutes? Right. So I think the immediate response is heard. I get that. 60% of people want that. They need an actual answer that could be paused, right? So I do believe that sometimes we feel like we need to give them an answer right away, and maybe we don't have the answer we need. But I think just acknowledging them is what this means. So I just want you to think through that. And then 70% of customer journey is based on the customer feels that they are treated. Tricky, right? I always say real estate's a tricky, tricky thing because you got one person, the seller, and then you got one person, the buyer, and they're rubber band. They want two different things, right? Seller wants the most money, buyer wants to buy it the most cost effective, least money, right? So you already have a conflict transaction just in the nature of how real estate's built, right? But I think the biggest thing is the journey is what they're looking for. So these unexpected extras are built to buffer that, right? We're not always given great news. We're not always telling our customers that they win, right? Sometimes they're going to lose. Sometimes their expectations are not going to be met. Most often, it's not our fault, yet we are the culprit or we are the deliverer of that information, right? So I think that's why unexpected extras are important. So first thing I want to cover before we get into some of the fun stuff is capture systems are key, right? You're not psychic. You're not going to know everything about your clients. Not all people are like super extroverted. You may or may not know this about me, but I'm not. I'm a little bit more of an introverted person, right? And so I'm definitely, when I meet a customer that hasn't turned into a client, I'm social with them. Obviously, I want to get to know them, build good rapport, but I'm not in their business, right? I'm not going to ask 75 questions that are super personal questions to make that unexpected experience, right? As you go through the transaction, maybe some of you get a little bit more comfortable with them and you may ask them. But I think right out of the gate, you need to have a capture form. So I use all Google Forms. That's just what I've been grew up in and have used my whole life. They're free. If you're in your Gmail or in your Google Suite products, you should see this like purple logo, and there's lots of templates. I'm going to give you some of them today, but they're easy because they're basically a website. They have a URL, they don't change. And every time someone fills it out, they have a response. They don't see anybody else's response. And the cool thing is that you'll now have this history of data forever, right? And it's a way that you can look back on it and keep loving on your clients for years and years to come. So we use what we call a get to know you form. This is one example of one of my coaching clients uses, and she loves it, right? Because she's really all about kind of trying to find those unique little nooks and crannies to make her clients feel special. So it has all the things listed in on the screen, right? It's just a quick form, right? And so capturing this is super important. So I would talk about this in your listing consultation and your buyer consultation. Tell them that you're going to send this to them, right? Say, hey, one thing I try to do is I go beyond just the transaction. I want to learn and get to know you about anything and everything I can so that I can, be a part of your world forever because I want to be your realtor, not just in one transaction. So I'm going to send you this link. You can text it, you can email it, and I would love for you to fill it out. And it's got simple things like what's your pet's names to even like your t-shirt size, right? Because I want to be able, if there's an opportunity where I see something that I think you would like, or something, maybe it's a holiday or a celebration, I want to be able to give it authentically to you. So don't be Santa. Tell them. Tell them that there's no secret, that your goal is to gather this information so you can love on them for years to come, and they're going to take it as, wow, this person is going beyond the transaction and helping me, and really making me feel special. Okay, just idea. So this is really what that form is, something important. You're also going to see some additional forms. The buyer needs, seller needs. These are questionnaires. And then this is a survey after the transaction. So we'll go through that. But let me real quickly go through the buyer and seller. So the buyer and seller needs analysis. I cannot implore you enough to send this before your appointment. I also would implore you that if you have multiple people in the transaction, let's say it's a husband and a wife or partners, two people, right? You send it to them separately. And you very easily in the text message say, hey, we're meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock at the Starbucks, or we're meeting at your house, 3 o'clock tomorrow. I really would love for you to fill this questionnaire out, really think about the answers to the questions. I'm going to print it off and I'm going to review this with you tomorrow. And so it's a great way to really understand what their perspective is. I'll give you an example. I had a client that used the seller questionnaire on a listing recently. It's a hefty price tag. It was almost a $3 million listing. She sent it and it made all the difference because there are specific questions in there about what their motivation is, what the three things that they want to see in a realtor, what they think the price is worth, right? Nothing worse than going to an appointment and you feel like you're tap dancing because you don't quite know what the expectations are. You also don't quite know these people, right? And even though maybe it's a referral and you think it's similar to the past client, obviously every personality is different, every situation is different. So I will tell you the capture information of the buyer needs analysis and the seller doesn't always connect with necessarily unexpected extras, but it's an example of capture, 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 right? And you got to coach your people to fill these out, right? Because nobody really honestly likes to fill any of the stuff out. I don't know if you ever had a survey before. Half the time I don't fill them out, right? So you really got to be diligent about saying, this is why I needed explaining the process. Because if you can get the buyer and the seller and they get to know you, and then we lead to the transaction feedback form, you have such powerful data now. You have good information that you can now use and cultivate this so you can truly have unexpected extras throughout the relationship. Okay. And then let's talk about the bad stuff real quick, right? So we know we're going to try our best to get great customer service, but we know we are human, we flub up, right? I've done it so many times I can't even count where I promise something and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't do it, right? It just wasn't added to my calendar, whatever the excuse I have, right? But 78% of customers back out of a purchase due to poor customer service. So when your buyer is getting, quote, cold feet, we may think it's the buyer or we think it's the property or something like that. But what if it's connected to us? What if there's something that's affected that? And there's another data on the screen that I think is like shocking is it takes 12 customer positive experience to make up for one negative experience. And you know you've experienced that too, right? We go to a restaurant, we go there all the time. It's a local spot, right? And you go there all the time. It's like your local chain restaurant or whatever it is. And you usually have good experiences. And then that one experience, the food is cold or undercooked or the server doesn't show up and your drinks are empty, right? You know that that negative experience starts to create a shadow on your overall experience. And in real estate, we unfortunately don't generally have 12 spots, 12 houses to sell this one customer, right? So this really amplifies the fact of negative experience. So I want to make sure you really have a system for a transaction survey. This is an email. I'm not going to lie, we use ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT, but it's just really important that you send this and you really follow up to make sure they have actually filled it out, right? So I just want you to be sure, like a transaction survey is super important, right? It's only going to you. It's only you're only going to see the positives and the negatives of it. I really want to make sure that you would coach people to use this. I would tell you to make sure you're doing the survey actually at the beginning and then another one at the end. Why does that seem weird? Because obviously you need to feel the pulse. We call it the honeymoon phase. When they start to meet you, let's say it's a buyer and you're at the, you know, at the coffee shop and you're excited to start the home search with them, right? We call it the honeymoon phase. That's where that goes. Then the love-o-meter kind of stops around the home inspection, right? So they're excited about they just got their house under contract. Then they go through home inspection and they realize maybe this beautiful house has got some cracks and dings and dents in it. And then that love meter starts to fade, right? So one of the things I would challenge you is maybe doing a transaction survey right when the house goes under contract, right? So you text them or you call them and say, yes, we got the house, right? But also what you would say is, hey, I'm going to send an email because I want to make sure I have a pulse on our relationship and I want to do just a transaction survey right now, right? So I'm going to send this to you, and I want you to be honest with me how the transaction's going so far. Give me the good, give me the bad, give me the ugly. I want to be able so we can get to the finish line together with success. Make sure you do that, right? Uh, I'd rather you be in front of the negative instead of them just get through the transaction and then never use you again, right? So just be careful. This is what it looks like. If you've ever used a Google form before, you can change all these, right? So you can edit them, change the description. So I'll send this to you and you can do that. This is where the responses go. So as they respond, they'll go through that. They don't see what that is. Little hack here, if you've never used a Google form, you have, I don't know why this is like this, but go into responses, click on this little three dots, and then get email notification for responses. Make sure that's set with the check mark because as they fill out this form, then you're going to get an email that says, hey, you got a new response, right? So this allows you to go through the process. You may go, oh my God, this is too many questions. Delete them. Go through the ones that you think are important. If you don't like this one, hit the trash can and work through it. But one of the things I want you to do, this is with the seller questionnaire, the buyer questionnaire, the get to know you questionnaire, and the survey. And you're like, oh my God, that's so many. It's really not when you space it out based on that, based on a transaction. Okay. So just a little quick tutorial on that. All right. Also, if you don't have a closed Facebook group for your past clients or your vendors, we call it the VIP club. I know all of us are probably in 100 different Facebook groups. I know I'm in all kinds of different ones, right? But this is a way for you to capture new information, right? So sometimes it's not the most appropriate thing to be like, hey, how many pets do you have and what's the name of your pets, right? But if you have it in a captured Facebook group like this, maybe you post a picture of your dog and say, hey, I'm curious, post a picture of your pet or animal and, tag their name, you know, something like that, right? So it's a community, right? So these Facebook groups are your closed transactions. It's a way, I say, that they can play in the sandbox. So this should be a fun group. This should not be just listed posts. It should not be tips and strategies. It should be loving on your people, right? So hey, welcome to Smith family. They just closed on a house. They now welcome to the VIP club, right? If you're doing an event or you're doing pop buys, hey, look out for I'm dropping off these things on your front doorstep. Look out for that, right? It's a way for you to gather information. Um, it's a really good way to do that. Another thing is if we're capturing information, is make sure you're doing it at client events. I have a whole other class on this. I love client events, but I think sometimes it's just like a free happy hour, right? And so what I would challenge you with client events is capture information. I always coach people that you need a check-in process. Even if you're going to the local bowling alley or you are doing a happy hour, set up a situation where maybe another person, aka friend, family, or employee, has your laptop open, has your database open, and they literally have a check-in sign, right? And they say, hey, what's your name? And they say John Smith. You pull them up in your database. You say, oh yeah, great. I see you in the database. Hey, I have just one or two quick questions. Drew, your realtor, wanted me to ask you. Hey, what's your favorite local restaurant? All right. What's your favorite holiday? Right? So weird questions, random questions, but what is that doing? It's number one, feeding your database automatically, right? Number two, it's allowing you after the event to now obviously capture some moments of unexpected extras, right? So closed Facebook groups and client event check-in process, super, super good. Um, get to know you better database contest. You can do absolutely, if they haven't filled out that survey form, say, hey, if you fill out this get to know you better Google form, I'll enter you into a contest, right? This is not RESPA. You're not asking for referrals. This is saying, I want to learn more about you and I want to make sure that I don't forget those details, right? And then the last capture system that I want to talk about is reviews, 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 right? So why is this so important? Well, first of all, buyers specifically look at that. So if you look at the very bottom left screen, 62% of home buyers choose a realtor based on online reviews. So this is the most underlooked, underutilized. And I know surveys are hard, right? I know that getting them is like pulling teeth, but being intentional about this is super important because there's such negative press out there about realtors. 67% of don't trust real estate agents, right? So even though we went through the transaction and we did our fiduciary, there's still the stigma of that realtors are not the greatest, right? And we've all worked with some of those agents that are not the greatest, right? So we've got to elevate and stand out, right? So that's why we're doing what we're doing here through Unexpected Extras. If you're thinking about which ones should I get, this is actually in order of priority and visibility online. Um, Google Business is absolutely the first one. If you don't have your own Google Business page, you should. It's free. You just have to set it up. Facebook, Zillow, Realtor.com, and Yelp, right? And so, again, if you can't do all five, pick one, pick two, and just be really intentional about it, right? Last thing is I have this on my screen, a flyer on the right-hand top corner. This is a flyer that I created for our company, right? And I'll actually send this. You're gonna see this at the end of it, and I hope you do a Google review for me. But this is an example of one that you could also use, and you could send it to your title or your closing company, and they can print it and put it in the packet of closed documents, right? So if you have a great relationship with your title or your attorney, you can say, hey, I really am making an effort to get a Google review from all of my closed transactions this year. Could you print this off and put it in the closing packet? 98%, 99%. I actually have had no title company say I can't do that. It's not RESPA, it's not anything, right? They're going to do all the process. They're going to sign the deed, to do all the things, and the last piece of paper, you're sitting at the conference room table with them. But the title person's going to say, "Hey, Drew, your realtor, had me put this in here. They want to get your feedback. If you could just pull out your phone, scan this real quick, and give Drew a quick Google review, we'd really appreciate that." And then it'll wrap up the transaction and we'll be able to get you the keys, right? That third party giving direction and giving input into getting that review makes it feel like it's just part of the transaction, right? And sometimes when we don't do that right at the closing table, we're chasing them throughout the transaction. So if you didn't get that review at that honeymoon phase of under contract, maybe you go a second touch at the closing table, and that will make a big difference, right? So just thought for that. Now we're going to go into what we call wow systems. So wow systems are, I read a book and actually went to a conference a few years ago about the Ritz-Carlton. And that if you've ever read any books about the Ritz-Carlton, they are all about customer service, but they always want to do something what they call the wow moments. And every employee at the Ritz-Carlton actually has a stipend or a per diem of like how much money they can spend. So like the nostalgic or historical like story behind the Ritz-Carlton is there was um, a housekeeper cleaning a house or cleaning a room. She saw there was a hairbrush, but it was broken. It wasn't necessarily an expensive hairbrush. It was just kind of old and kind of beat up. So she saw that. She actually ironically went to like Walmart, bought almost the same hairbrush, brand new, and set it beside the old one, right? $10 hairbrush from Walmart, Ritz-Carlton, right? Nothing really crazy. But that wow moment caused such a viral sensation and caused that customer to feel so seen and so heard that they posted it on social media. It's been added to many customer service books. And so we kind of use that same mantra here at the Freedom Companies of like, how do you create wow moments, right? So we came up with a list of what we call the 11 wow gift moments. And these are things that happen to all of us, right? Birthdays, weddings, divorces, pets passing away, like new babies, deaths, unfortunately, changes, and just something to maybe make them smile. Maybe you saw a social media post of one of your past clients and they just aren't having a good day, right? We want to make this spontaneous, but we know that life gets crazy and we have good intentions, right? So I created from my own business wow gifts and a list, and I'm going to share it with you, and maybe I encourage you to come up with your own list. But the great thing is that 99.9% of these are on a website and they will just mail directly to your client. right? So you're not having to go to Walmart and buy the hairbrush and package it up and drive to the house, right? You're going to use Amazon, you're going to use UPS, you're going to have a third party do this for you in heavy lifting, right? And so I hate to say it, but we don't really have an excuse now with this delivery technology that we have, right? It's having that list of things. So this is an example. This is a list I'm going to send you, literally my list, right? I have all 11 of those. Um, so it's one of those things that like it's now no excuse, right? So if you see that, and again, I also think about people get stuck in their head. Like, do you see the kindergarten graduation picture of your client and there maybe their daughter graduated kindergarten and you're like, oh man, I missed it. Send it now. Yeah, it's going to be a week late, but I'm going to tell you that actually stands out more. Birthdays all the time. I'll see something on social media. I'm like, oh crap, I missed their birthday. Write a birthday card, send it in the mail. Yes, it's 7 to 10 days late. But you know what's different? Is that you show up different, right? So maybe they get this cute. I saw this cute little teddy bear. It's like $11 with their name on it. Like, who doesn't love a freaking cute kindergarten graduation teddy bear, right? This is specifically the bottom right. This is what we give to everybody that has a pet that passes away. I've unfortunately had to give these away to a lot of past clients, right? But daggone, their pets are their like heart and soul. So for you to have this delivered, it's an Etsy product, so it's generally U.S. local made, right? And it comes in the package, and they open it up, and they're like, "Oh my God, my realtor thought of me because my pet passed away," right? Cute little swag for little newborn babies. I've done this before where they got little toy um, toy holders for pets, like a new dog, a new cat, something like that, right? Again, it's in unintentional, unexpected extras is like, wow, he thought of me. Wow. And I know we want to feel like we are on top of this, but it happens. So what I would recommend is I literally have just I do 2 wow gifts a month. Just financially, I'm like, that's my budget. I scroll social media. I try to find one of those 11, two of those 11 topics that we just talked about, right? Oh, I was going to show you that. But there's my list, right? So literally click on it and it'll take you to the gift. I think that's super cute. You don't like it, there's other stuff up there, right? 18 bucks, 14 bucks. None of these wow gifts. I love this divorce one. I've sent this a couple times. It's a freaking $10 candle, but I love just the concept of that you thought of them and you know maybe they're going through a hard time or they're celebrating something amazing, right? So just want you to really start to realize that you can implement some of this stuff. It's not hard, just take some intentionality. And if you already have a list, it makes it honestly you don't have much of an excuse. Okay. All right, then we're going to go in after the sales stuff. So we got about 15 minutes before we kind of wrap this up. This is which most of us shine, right? And one thing I have found is that when we're busy, it doesn't shine. When we're slower, meaning we only have one or two transactions, we tend to be able to do this a little bit better. What all systems in any business, whether you're running a restaurant or selling cars, is you want to build systems that you can do no matter if you're busy or slow, right? When you're slow, in any business, you feel like you can always put the cherry on top. When you're busy, freaking, you don't even think you have time to even buy cherries, right? So I just want you to think about these after the sales systems need to be so automated, so natural, so like part of your DNA. It's like getting dressed, right? So these are some after the sales systems. First of all, everybody needs to be sending a home anniversary card. They just bought the house from you, right? And they're now a past client, but they haven't referred you anybody else, right? You need to stay top of mind with them. They also, yes, they bought a house, but they just gave you a large commission check, right? So worst case scenario, you can spend 72 cents in a card that says happy 1 anniversary, happy 5 year anniversary. It's funny. I also, when I coach people, they say, oh, I always send the first anniversary card. We know historically that they stay in their home 7 to 10 years. The first year, they're probably not, I mean, they love you, but they're not really settled in and they're not really going to get as many referrals. So I would really make sure maybe you've neglected some home anniversaries. Maybe you're 5 years in the business and your first people 5 years ago, you've never sent them a home anniversary. Start now, right? It's okay. They're not going to be like, oh my God, he didn't send me one for the last 4 years. But they're going to say this, oh my God, it's 5 years in this home. That's really special, right? So this is off Etsy. You can do it. You can make your own in Canva. There's tons of things, but that's something example. I gave you the example of the pizza delivery for buyers when they move. I've done it all different sorts of way. I've personally delivered the pizza. Here's a little flyer that this was a mock-up of a version we used years ago, but like you're gonna go buy the pizza, you're gonna slap this on there, print it from your home printer, and you're gonna deliver it and just say, hey, I want to check on you. I know it's moving day. I know it's exciting, but yet stressful trying to get everything in the house. Or if you can't do that, just say, hey, I want to order some pizza. When is the best time? What kind of pizza? Don't show up with pepperoni when they're vegan, you know? So make sure you're careful with that. Or I've actually had one other client. She had a relationship with like a pizza shop that she wanted to support locally, and they kind of created a coupon. And basically, she had like a QR code coupon similar to like a Starbucks concept, where we scan the QR code and they had like $25 to buy a pizza, right? So no excuse. Figure out. I think move-in day pizza is super huge, as that's again part of the 6 stressors of life. The home binder. I have done this religiously for years, and I now it's even sexier than it ever was. My old school uh, book has really gotten a facelift. So this is pretty cool. This is called the Hub for the Home. I think I have a clip of like it's $30. But it has like these cool tabs. It has all kinds of things like useful tips. It's got tabs for warranties. It's got all that stuff, right? So one of the cool things I think about this is that you're in there, right? So they're going to keep this in their probably kitchen cabinet or their junk drawer forever, right? Because they're going to have all the warranties, all the dishwasher stuff, like everything like that. I also saw, again, super inexpensive. You can create your own. Maybe you want to make sure your branding is in there, right? Canva templates. You can go buy the binder yourself and you can do all the things you need to do there. But this is, I think the template's like $19. And I just want to inspire you. Like, this is really good. Maintenance tips. Um, it has all these little different things. I don't know if you can see all that, but like closing documents, you can put all that in there, right? So again, lasting impression is, oh, sorry about that. Uh, is be like you are the resource for them, right? So maybe you're going through the phases of the transaction. Maybe you're going to leave this transaction binder for them, right? And it's good because now when they pull, they decide to move after 4 years or 7 years or get a job relocation, they have your contact information. Because believe it or not, they may forget who you are if you aren't careful. Okay. Then I always like to wait about 3 to 4 months after the person has moved in and then give them something a little bit extra, right? So I know you guys go all out on the closing gifts. I love and appreciate that. But maybe pull back 30 or $40, right? Maybe just instead of spending $100, you spend $75, right? Because later, maybe you're gonna have this mailed to them, right? So they have pets, maybe they need a new dog tag or cat tag. Maybe you need to do a welcome mat. Maybe you need to do a new stamp for their, envelopes when they mail stuff in their new address. So this delayed reaction is super important because were in the honeymoon phase with you. They were happy to have the transaction with you. You gave them a closing gift. They're in that euphoric high. And then we all know once we get into a new place and we've been there a minute, you start to see home maintenance and you see all the burdens of just home ownership. Obviously, there's a gift of equity, but mowing the grass and keeping up the house has that, right? So just want to uplift them again 3 to 4 months later. It's another little boost into that journey. So these things are like cheap. Like it's crazy. This is not expensive. $15. Send them an Amazon package. It doesn't need to be wrapped crazy, right? It doesn't have to be crazy. Like this is a $25 doormat. It's not like we're spending thousands of dollars on them, right? It's just simple little things that says, hey, remember me? $8 for a daggone dog tag, right? And so I'm going to send you these links. I want you to keep them. I want you to put them in a playbook So when you're in transactions with people, you can just click and order, right? And again, not spending a lot of money. It's about that connection. $20, $25 goes a long way when you're trying to keep unexpected extras going. Okay. How are we doing on time? We got 10 minutes. Look at us. Um, Couple things I've actually had people do recently, which is very common now. A lot of this stuff is just standard, right? And the funny thing about unexpected extras, it's now like the floor, not the ceiling, meaning this is what you got to do. This is you've set the bar. This is what you got to do. So as people that are doing these just simple, cute, like move-in baskets, right? So you do the walkthrough after they leave, you wave, whatever. You obviously you pop the lockbox, you shut the door, just wait in the drive and let them leave, and then you go back in. Go back in, pull it out of your trunk, and maybe set that in there because they're going to go to the closing table with you. They're going to get the keys. They're going to drive to their new home because they're excited. They just signed the documents. And when they open the door, they're going to see beverages in the fridge, water, balloons. They're going to see this, this basket of goodies, right? I know toilet paper seems crazy, but like, where is it when you're moving, right? It's in a box somewhere and you don't have it labeled, right? Maybe you need to brush your teeth. You don't even have a freaking toothbrush, right? Chaotic. It's stressful. So some of these basics that you can get at the dollar store or Walmart seem so foundational, but it makes a big difference and makes them smile. I have a lot of people. Actually, I had one client the other day use a rental company for yard signs. Uh, but welcome home sign, make it fun, right? So you can buy one of these. I think this is really inexpensive, like 15 bucks. But there's also rental companies that are 100, $150 that I'll do it for you. Depends on what your budget is. But you want to get to a point where after the walkthrough, you do the closing, they come back to their property that now they've purchased and they're like, oh my gosh, look at this unexpected extra. Look at that additional thing that they did in my house, right? That's going to show up on social media most likely. And it's going to get a text or response from them that says, oh my God, this is the cherry on top. This is so unexpected. Okay. So just make sure you kind of work through what's going to work for you. Right. And when I talked about all these ideas, you don't have to implement all of them. You'll go broke doing all of these for everybody. Right. Pick one, pick two, pick three things that's going to give you that little burst. Okay. I've personally done this. I love them. Again, I'm not an extroverted person, but I love hosting a housewarming party. This has to be for the right person, right? So a lot of personality traits, right? If your buyer is not the partying type or they're kind of a private person, that's understandable. When you're doing a consultation, you can say, again, don't make this a surprise. Say, hey, a lot of times I would be happy to throw a housewarming party. I'm happy to help with invites, buy some little decorations, even, you know, get a cool, fun photo album for you, pay for some desserts. Um, would that be something you're interested in? They're like, no, we don't know anybody in town. We just moved to the area. Okay, well then that's not for them, right? But asking that is super fun. I've done it countless times, and it's super fun. You don't have to stay there the whole time. You also don't have to buy everything, so it's not like you're spending $500-$600, right? You just maybe get some of the cute stuff going. I found this like photo album thing. It's super cute. Everybody basically scans the QR code, and all their friends and family are taking photos, and they upload it into this photo album. It's 29 bucks. And what can you do? You can print it in an album and drop it off a couple weeks later that said, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your housewarming experience. Hey, I wanted to just print off some photos so you remember how amazing this process has been and journey and how much support you have from your friends and family. Dude, you're gonna be freaking referred like crazy, right? So this was a company called Guest Picks, 29 bucks, right? And it's just a fun way to show that you're all about building connections, not just selling houses. Micro events are very popular right now and high impact, right? So I think universally in real estate, we have these client events where I've seen people do 200-300 people rent out movie theaters. What we're seeing is post-COVID is it's kind of going small, not going large, right? So maybe you're going to only invite 6 people to the movies, or maybe you're going to go out to dinner together, or maybe you're going to axe throw, or maybe you're going to go bowling, right? It's just a show up, enjoy experience. I don't want you to worry about crazy invitations. I don't want you to worry about party planning events like, uh, you know, decorating. I want you to show up and just have fun with them. right? I had somebody that's doing Top Golf, and they're just going to take 6 people to Top Golf, right? She's going to show up. They're going to show up. They're going to have a good time, a couple beverages, good laugh, 2 hours. Hasta la vista, we're done, right? These micro events make them feel VIP, make them feel special. They make them feel like they're not part of your huge process. And be strategic with who you invite. I have one client that's doing it and super smart. She basically created, she calls it a referral tree. So she's inviting 6 people and each one of them referred to the next one. So it was like a crazy domino. So she was like, Susie, and I'm inviting Susie and then Johnny because Susie referred Johnny. And for her to know that, number one, shows she's in relationship with her database. But it's super cool for them to get together and go, hey, my realtor is a rock star and we are her VIP clients. Okay. So these are just some examples. Plants, candles, axes, go to escape room. It's just show up and have fun. It's 2 hours. It's nothing crazy. You can do this. It's low budget. It's I also think some of the things you need to do something. Number one, not all humans drink alcohol. And then number two, they don't all know each other, right? You are the only common denominator. So giving them something to do gives a little bit of that social anxiety relief. It allows them to be focused on certain things. So I recommend you doing these when you're actually physically having an activity. And it's also fun. As adults, we need to kind of be a kid every once in a while, right? Last piece of the puzzle in the 4 minutes. I cannot be remiss as a coach to tell you that you cannot do any of these unexpected extras if you're not organized, right? You're not going to know who to invite. You're not going to know who you should spend money on, right? I will say this, and I don't care if I'm judged. You don't need to spend money on everyone, right? If they have not given you a referral for 5 years and you've been loving on them and taking care of them, then maybe you don't give them wow gifts, right? Maybe, yes, you can post on social media, sorry, you've lost your pet. Maybe you could do a card, yes. But when you get to a point and you are organizing your database and you know who your advocate group is, that's who you love on the most, right? So I want to remind you that every database, I think every contact should have 2 tags or groups, right? So you have your contact. You should have one tag that's literally has a tag called, I call it the advocate tag, or what I call it quality tag. A plus, they've sent you 2 or more referrals. A, B, and C, you can see it on the screen. This helps me and it should help you decide where you're going to spend your time and your money, right? If you are going to do a micro event, you are not going to invite a C quality tag. You aren't. Now you're going to get your email list. You maybe will check in from them once a quarter, but you're honestly the time and money you're spending in these VIP experience need to be at the cream of the crop, your A pluses and your A's. And you're not going to have thousands of them. You're not even going to have hundreds of them. You're probably going to have a handful. Call it like your top 30, right? Also, you need to have the second tag. We call it a lead tag or the type. Who the heck were they? Where did you originally get them from? Be more specific, the better, right? Um, Soccer, things like that. I also have, we use a system called DTD2. If you've been around a while, it's a good way to stay in touch with your database as well, right? And this is the DTD2. It's really just you're going to connect with 2 letters of the alphabet each week. It's just an automation system, right? So I'm going to start this week. I'm going to pull up my database. The last name's A, the last name W. See here up in the top. And I'm just going to text them like, hey, how have you been? How's things going? Right. And if you're going on vacation next week, then you're going to miss B and E. But you know, when you get back, you can do B and E and D and O and you get caught back up. So this system allows you to basically touch your entire database in 3 months. And the cool thing is the more you do this and the more these are organized, the better you're going to be and feel more comfortable about spending this money, spending intentional time of doing these unexpected extras, right? And it all connects to how many contacts you have in your database, right? So the number one thing I see is that you don't have enough people in your database, right? So used to be for every 10 people you had in your database, you get a referral. Market's tighter. Market conditions have gotten crazy in the last 5 years. So now it's about 20 to 1, right? So when I see someone have 150 people in their database, I'm like, it's going to be rough. It's going to be hard to sell 24 houses a year if you only have 150 people. So the math right there 24 home sales, you have to have 480 people in your database, right? They're going to be of all different quality types, right? The ABC, A plus ABC, right? But it does take a number. And so getting yourself organized, knowing that information is going to be huge because all this fun and sexy and cute stuff on unexpected extras can't be fall on deaf ears. Can't be only a few people. It's got to be a numbers game. Okay, so I just wanted you to know that. So if you feel like your database isn't large enough, you need to add some fresh water. You need to go and find those humans. Most likely, it's an exercise I coach people to do. There's email people or there's phone people that are not in your database, or maybe there's people on your social media that you just haven't added, right? Or you need to network more. So grow your database so you can love on more people, so you can do those unexpected things for more people, and they're going to pay it forward. And then database, the size. I have a lot of people that have a ton of people, like 1,000 or 1,500. And then we get through that where like the quality isn't there. You don't really know them. They're random people from an open house. They're a spreadsheet that you uploaded for your farm. So can your database be too large? Yeah, right? Because if you're going to love on these people and you're going to do unexpected extras and you pull up your database and you're like, who the heck is Drew? Right? You're obviously not going to send me a gift for my dog that passed away because you don't even know who I am. So make sure you're careful of people that you know versus people you don't, because that will become a roadblock and it actually becomes like this mental fear of like, what am I doing? Okay. So I just want to end with this that just says loyal customers, they don't come back. They don't just come back. They don't just simply recommend you. They insist that their friends do business with you. You want to get to a point where you have such a VIP group that these unexpected extras are just like a warm hug around them. They're like, you know what? Yes, we sold or bought a house together, but I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm going to help you through the bad days, the good days. And I think we all have good intentions, but our systems are where the cracks are, right? We know when someone posts that they have a death in the family or a new pet in the family. We want to say celebrate or give condolences, but we don't have the system. So, like I said, and Shirley said at the beginning of this session, like you gotta implement, right? Take these one or two ideas and work through them. Okay. So next month we're doing a farming class, but it's not just on neighborhood farming. So I want to encourage you, if you want to attend April 17th, or if you can't attend, I'll send you the training recording. We're going to talk about social farming, aka networking, getting you out there and rubbing elbows with new humans, building that fresh water. We're also going to talk about social media, digital farming, and then of course we are going to talk about the core foundations of geo farming, aka neighborhood farming. And then also in May, we're going to do 6 types of referrals. We're going to break that referral down into the most popular types of referrals. I hear all the time that agents are like, oh, 90% of my business is referrals. Well, what does that mean? Is it past client referrals? Is it SOI referrals? Is it agent referrals? What type of referral is it? And how do you approach that? So if you would love to join us on those, you have to sign up individually because they have different QR code Zoom links. So pull out your phone and scan that. And just like I asked you, I want to capture our opportunity to network and connect with each other. If you need more accountability, if you feel like you've been to trainings and you haven't implemented, it might be time to hire a coach. So we have what we call flex coaching. Uh, Basically, in so many words, you can add and subtract different things. The more options and the different things you get, the prices change, but it starts at $295 and it's 2 sessions a month and there's no contract, right? Or it's a 3-month contract, but then you can, if you do more contract, it gets cheaper and cheaper. So it's $300 a month. Um, and I think it would help you implement some of these unexpected extras. Scan that QR code and we'll Zoom. And last but not least, I would love for you to give me a Google review. Give me something you learned, maybe something you heard today that you've already heard before, but it sparked some energy from you. So scan this QR code and give me a Google review. I'm so close to 300 reviews. I think I'm at like 296 or something. I have a goal to hit 300, so right there doing that. And this helps me get feedback. Obviously, it helps me attract new clients and new referrals because people Google real estate coaches and trainers, and I hope to pop up in their Google search. So, like I promised, I'll be sending you this presentation all of those links. There's a lot of them. So enjoy those and use those and select the ones that work for you. And of course, the recording after this. So that's it for today. Enjoy the first day of spring. And I hope to see you next month at our next training. All right.